Hey everyone! Before we begin today's episode, I would like to remind you guys again to please check out some of my other YouTube channels in the description down below. I have a Star Wars Battlefront 2 Classic Focus channel where I review custom maps and mods on the Battlefront Max channel. I do gaming reviews on the Kanoa Reviews channel, and I've also recently started a Minecraft adventure channel where I play through classic adventures with friends. You can find the links in the description, and please subscribe to those channels if you like what you see. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the episode. 2017 was well underway, and the recent French election had Emmanuel Macron stand at the head of the French Republic. He inherited a France that stood in the middle of a wobbly Europe. Shouts for Brexit and separation from Brussels could be felt in its bones in many different countries. But Macron promised to be there both for his own people and for the citizens of the EU. Germany continued securing its own finances, while its economy was still going strong. Some saw it as a ticking time bomb, and by strengthening own brands like Volkswagen, it secured another growth spurt for the foreseeable future. Deals were also made with the French, who were eager to cooperate as some of the first deeds underneath Macron's leadership. Then disturbing news came from Yemen that mostly went unnoticed by the Western audience, despite receiving media coverage. Saudi-led coalition battling Yemen's Houthi rebels said it had intercepted a missile fired from the neighboring country towards the kingdom's capital, Riyadh. Houthi rebels said on Tuesday they had launched a ballistic missile targeting Al Yamama Royal Palace to mark 1,000 days since the coalition started its bombing campaign in Yemen. In July, the Albanian election results were in, and Eni Rama had won in a big upset. It defeated the sitting government single-handedly, formed a majority government alone, emerged victorious in the elections tasked with leading Albania forward. The immediate concerns were not that of Brexit, as its effects did not ripple all the way towards its nation. Rather, it was still the economic disturbance concerning Greece that demanded their fixation, as the economic situation for Europe overall was still fleeting. After Volkswagen was secured, it was up to the manufacturers in Dresden and Leipzig to be shoved into a new direction as well, by both creating new opportunities for the building of manufacturers as well as giving a boost to the existing ones. This would be one of Merkel's final acts before the elections in Germany occurred. Since the last election on the 21st of September of 2013, Angela Merkel had been steadily steering Germany. With the final votes being cast in 2 weeks, this direction would be challenged by powerful rivals. Most of the campaign's advertisement spending had already happened, and polls were starting to pick up the effects. But Merkel stood relatively secure, despite her popularity not being as high as it once was. With the final voting drawing ever closer, they had to make a decision on who they would contrast themselves against in terms of foreign policy in the election. With the world an increasing tumultuous place, the issue had become more important to voters than usual. There were some who were in favor of using media sources via hard-hitting negative ads to make the other's popularity tumble. But the truth of the matter was that the Brexit issue and the chaos it unleashed in Britain worked in Merkel's favor. Though there were many a German who wanted change, many were also afraid that a new chancellor would not be able to pick up the broken pieces and glue it together. Mutti Merkel would receive one more term before her time was up in many people's eyes. Though change was important, the Brexit matter and what it meant for Europe was no matter that would need to be delayed by bureaucratic issues with a new leader at the nation's head. At the same time in Holland, the Dutch elections had come to a close as well. Mark Rutte and his Volkspartij voor Vrijheid en Democratie emerged once again victorious in the election, and with support from other parties in the government, was tasked to try and rule the nation again after having failed so many times already. Conflicts of interest in parties trying to form a coalition had become the downfall for the Dutch government on numerous occasions, and this would definitely still happen in the coming future. Neighboring Belgium stood at the helm of an air force reform, not really seemingly bothered by any turmoil in the near vicinity. And thus in the first week of October of 2017, it became clear that Merkel would be re-elected and receive another term. A lot of people, including Merkel herself, knew that this would in all likelihood be her last term. And it was important to prevent Germany from falling into the abyss by any possible economic downfall or disturbance from the outside. China had other concerns on its plate. Hostile talk coming from neighboring countries on the increased power of its leader had prompted a program of instating countermeasures against aircraft. When asked for commentary on China's movements, Putin said that he wasn't too worried. Russia still had to deal with accusations of messing with systems in America, all of which were denied, and had to look inward mostly. Putin, who had also pulled power to himself, saw similar signs with Xi Jinping and did not sense a potential threat, rather a potential ally if the disturbance from outside kept increasing. European elections continued, with this time Austria and its leader Michael Spindelegger to continue its nation's ways. And even tiny Luxembourg had its elections. Germany, for now, looked towards the international trade policies. It was important to find a theater of trade that could benefit the nation for the coming years. Multiple trade deals could of course be made, but for now, the focus lay on oil, giving new trade agreements with countries from Europe and the Middle East. In America, Trump finally looked towards international diplomacy after focusing so much on his own nation for the past few months. Connections with other nations needed to be kept and be established, especially since heated arguments between him and North Korea's government had some people on edge. In a way, Trump's government was still keeping an eye on an ever-growing China that could be a potential threat if a future war would break out. By the end of 2017, financial news was revealed that did not come as a shock to the Germans. The data was clear. The international exports of Germany were going down. The cause, however, was being hotly debated amongst Angela Merkel's economic advisors. One theory that roamed around was that they had become less competitive due to their relative high wages. Another was that their competitors had increased the quality of their products. And others felt that the decrease in demand was just due to shifting trends abroad. But this was exactly why for the past few months Germany had secured its economic benefactors, as they knew they would be hit by financial disappointment as well. All they could do now was to hope their precautions were enough to keep the nation's economy stable. Despite seeing potential in China that was growing as a more powerful nation with an ever-growing power-hungry leader, Putin greenlit the training of more troops, as the thought also crossed his mind that China could become power-hungry to the point where it would outmatch Russia's army. It was far from it at its current state, but that could change in due time. Simultaneously, Russian cards had been laid in the open, as moves made earlier had now come to fruition. The Second Libyan Civil War started in 2014, after the Libyan military, under General Khalifa Haftar, ousted the ruling government when they refused to step down after losing the elections of 2014. The supporters of the government formed a new faction, the National Salvation Government, sparking a new civil war. In 2015, the UN brokered a truce between the two factions, forming a new joint government called the Government of National Accord. However, only a year later, the peace was shattered, plunging the country into a three-way civil war. It seemed that the House of Representatives, with the support of General Haftar, the Libyan military, and many Gaddafi loyalists, had managed to legitimize their rule over the country. Supplied and backed by Russia, Haftar had promised land for 2 Russian military bases in the country. This would see an increase of Russian influence in North Africa. World leaders everywhere tried to increase their own influence over other nations and continents. Whether this was through economy and diplomacy or military might, everyone was securing their piece of the bigger puzzle. 2017 was coming to a close, and a new global conflict was still far out. But those that were watching carefully could already see the first hints of where it showed what was to come.